Jiwon stared at the screen in front of her and blinked twice to make sure she was seeing correctly. The translation software had been acting strange all morning, but this was different. She worked in the basement levels of the Galactic Council, archives on Nexus Prime where millions of documents from thousands of worlds were stored and translated every day. Her job was simple and boring most of the time. She took old Earth records and put them into the main database so other species could read them. Today she was working on some very old files from Earth that had been sitting in storage for almost 50 years. The Council wanted everything digitized and translated properly. Most of the work was routine stuff like trade agreements and population records. But this particular file was different because it contained the original submission forms that humans had filled out when they first applied to join the Galactic Council. The problem was with Earth's name. In every single Council document she had ever seen, humanity's homeworld was listed as Terra 3. That was the official designation that appeared on star maps and in diplomatic communications. But here in the original human paperwork, the planet was called something else entirely. The humans had written down their world's name in their own ancient languages, and the translation was not matching up with what everyone thought it meant. Jiwon rubbed her eyes and looked at the screen again. She had been working for the Council's translation department for 3 years now and had never seen anything like this. The computer was telling her that the human word Earth did not mean what she thought it meant. According to the linguistic analysis programs, the word had much older roots than anyone realized. She decided to run the translation again, using different parameters. Maybe the software was making an error. Earth was supposed to mean something, like ground or soil or land where things grow. That made sense for a farming world that produced food for other planets. But the computer kept giving her the same result no matter how many times she tried. The ancient root words that made up Earth were much more complex. The translation software was breaking down the etymology and showing her layers of meaning that went back thousands of years. The deeper it went, the more troubling the translation became. According to the analysis, Earth's name in the oldest human languages meant something closer to the proving ground, or the place where warriors are made. Jiwon saved her work and walked upstairs to find her supervisor. Minho had been working with the Council for almost 20 years and knew more about human history than anyone else in the building. He was in his office reviewing some trade documents when she knocked on his door. "I need to show you something," she said, as she sat down across from his desk. "I found a problem with one of the Earth files." Minho looked up from his work and saw the expression on her face. "What kind of problem?" "It's about the name. Earth's real name. I think we've been translating it wrong this whole time." She showed him her screen and explained what the translation software had discovered. Minho's face changed as he read through the linguistic analysis. He was quiet for a long time before he finally spoke. "This is probably just an error in the old records," and he said, but his voice sounded uncertain. "You know how these ancient languages can be. The same word can mean different things depending on context. But I ran it through 6 different translation programs and they all gave me the same result," Jiwon replied. "The computer is very confident about this translation." Minho stood up and walked to his window that looked out over the busy streets of Nexus Prime. Hundreds of different species walked below them going about their daily business. The Galactic Council had brought peace to this part of the galaxy for over 200 years. "Even if the translation is correct, it doesn't matter," he said finally. "That's ancient history. It has no relevance to anything happening today. Humans are peaceful members of the Council. They work in agriculture and basic manufacturing. They're not warriors." But Jiwon was not satisfied with that answer. She had always been curious about things, and this discovery was too interesting to just ignore. After Minho dismissed her, she went back to her desk and started digging deeper into the Earth files. If the planet's name really meant something about proving grounds and warriors, maybe there were other clues hidden in the old records. She spent the rest of the day going through personnel files and military records. What she found made her stomach feel strange. Human soldiers in the Galactic Defense Force had unusual promotion rates. They advanced through the ranks much faster than soldiers from other species. Their tactical scores were consistently higher. Their survival rates in dangerous missions were remarkable. When she looked at civilian records, she found more strange patterns. Humans seemed to adapt to new environments faster than other species. They learned new technologies quickly. They were represented in leadership positions at rates that seemed disproportionate to their small population. Late in the afternoon, Hyunwoo stopped by her desk. He was a military attaché who worked in the council's security division. She had seen him around the building but had never spoken to him before. He was tall and serious-looking and always wore his uniform perfectly. "I heard you were asking questions about Earth records," he said quietly. "Can I see what you found?" Jiwon looked around to make sure no one else was listening. She showed him her screen and explained about the translation problem. As she talked, Hyunwoo's expression became more and more grave. "You need to stop this research," he said when she finished. "Delete these files and forget about this." "Why? What's wrong with trying to get an accurate translation?" Hyunwoo looked around nervously and then leaned closer to her desk. "Because some secrets are meant to stay buried. The peace we have now depends on other species seeing humans as harmless farmers and traders. If they knew the truth about what Earth really was, everything would change." "What truth? What was Earth really?" Before Hyunwoo could answer, Minho appeared at Jiwon's desk. "Is there a problem here?" "No problem," Hyunwoo said quickly. "I was just checking on some routine security matters." After he left, Minho told Jiwon to finish her current project and move on to something else. But she could not stop thinking about what Hyunwoo had said. That night she stayed late in the office and accessed the restricted databases that only senior staff were supposed to use. What she found in those files made her hands shake as she read. The truth about Earth was much bigger and more frightening than she had imagined. The next morning, Hyunwoo could not concentrate on his regular duties. He kept thinking about what Jiwon had discovered and knew he had to tell someone in authority. The young translator had no idea what she had stumbled onto, but Hyunwoo understood the implications perfectly. He had clearance to access files that most humans in the council never saw. He walked through the security corridors to Admiral Soman's office. She commanded the Human Fleet Division within the Galactic Defense Force and was one of the highest-ranking humans in the entire council structure. Her office was in the military wing, where armed guards checked every visitor. Admiral Soman was reviewing tactical reports when Hyunwoo knocked on her door. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had earned her position through 30 years of exceptional service. Every other species respected her strategic mind and her ability to solve complex military problems. "We have a situation," Hyunwoo said as he closed the door behind him. "A translator in the archives discovered something about Earth's name. She knows it doesn't mean what everyone thinks it means." Someone stopped reading and looked up at him. "How much does she know?" "She knows the real translation. She knows it means proving ground or warrior maker. She's been digging through restricted files." Admiral Soman was quiet for several minutes. Then she picked up her secure communicator and sent messages to Ambassador Taehyung and Chief Science Officer Nayeon. "Emergency meeting in 1 hour. Conference room 7. Maximum security protocols." An hour later, the 4 highest-ranking humans at the council sat around a table in a room that was shielded against all forms of electronic surveillance. Ambassador Taehyung handled all diplomatic relations between humanity and the other species. Nayeon was responsible for scientific research and technological development. Together, they represented humanity's public face to the galaxy. "Tell them what you told me," Admiral Soman said to Hyunwoo. He explained about Jiwon's discovery and her research into the old Earth files. As he talked, the faces around the table became more and more serious. When he finished, Ambassador Taehyung was the first to speak. "How many people know about this?" "Just the translator and her supervisor as far as I know, but she's been accessing restricted databases. She might have found more than she's telling anyone." Nayeon opened her tablet and began pulling up files that even Hyunwoo had never seen before. "If she's found the deep archives, she knows about the architects." The room became very quiet. The architects were humanity's greatest secret. Only a few dozen humans in the entire galaxy knew the truth about them. "Explain it to him," Admiral Soman said to Nayeon. Nayeon turned her tablet so Hyunwoo could see the screen. It showed geological surveys of Earth that went back millions of years. Earth was not a natural world. It was designed and built by an ancient species we call the architects. They disappeared long before humans evolved, but they left behind a planet that was specifically created to forge a warrior race. The data was overwhelming. Earth's biodiversity was impossible for a natural world. The planet had more different types of environments than any other known world. Deserts next to frozen mountains, next to tropical forests, next to vast oceans. Each environment created different challenges that forced early humans to adapt constantly. The climate was artificially unstable, Nyan continued. Ice ages came and went faster than they should have. Sea levels changed rapidly. Weather patterns were chaotic. Early humans could never get comfortable in any environment because it would change within a few generations. What about the predators? Hyunwoo asked. Also artificial. Earth had more large predators per square kilometer than any world should be able to support. Humans were never safe. They had to develop weapons and tactics and group cooperation just to survive each day. Ambassador Taehyung pulled up another set of files. The geography was designed to create isolated human populations that would develop separately. Mountain ranges and oceans divided early humans into thousands of different groups. Each group faced different challenges and developed different solutions. This created genetic diversity and cultural diversity, Admiral Soman added. When humans finally developed transportation technology, they had thousands of different approaches to every problem. War, trade, science, art, government. The variety made humans incredibly adaptable. Nayeon showed Hyunwoo brain scans of different species. Human neural development is unique in the galaxy. Other species have brains that are optimized for specific functions. Chromalians are natural strategists. Valdorians are excellent at mathematics. Zephyrians have perfect memory. But human brains are generalists that can adapt to any cognitive challenge. The architects built Earth to create the ultimate problem-solving species, Admiral Somin explained. Every challenge that early humans faced was designed to select for intelligence, creativity, aggression, cooperation, and adaptability. Hyunwoo looked at the genetic analysis charts. But why? Why would anyone want to create a warrior race? Because they knew something was coming, Nayeon said quietly. The architect installations that we've found contain warning messages. They detected signs of a massive threat from outside the galaxy, something that would require a military response beyond anything the current galactic species could provide. Ambassador Taehyung explained that the Council's member species had all evolved on relatively peaceful worlds. They had developed advanced technology and created stable civilizations, but they had never faced existential threats. Their military capabilities were designed for maintaining order, not for fighting total war against genocidal enemies. The Chromalians are brilliant strategists, but they think in terms of political advantage and economic gain, he said. The Valdorians have powerful weapons, but they've never had to use them against an enemy that wanted to completely destroy them. The Zephyrians have strong defensive capabilities, but no experience with offensive warfare. Humans are different, Admiral Soman said. Earth taught us that survival requires constant vigilance and preparation for conflict. Human military doctrine assumes that any enemy will use every possible advantage, and that total victory requires total commitment. Nayeon showed Hyunwoo tactical analysis reports from recent Galactic Defense Force exercises. Human units consistently outperformed units from other species in scenarios involving unexpected threats and resource limitations. Human commanders were better at adapting their strategies when original plans failed. The other species think we're naturally gifted at military affairs, Admiral Soman said. They don't understand that we've been shaped by millions of years of carefully designed evolutionary pressure. What happens if this information becomes public? Hyunwoo asked. The three senior officials looked at each other. Ambassador Taehyung answered first. Some species would demand our immediate expulsion from the Council. They would say we're too dangerous to be trusted with advanced technology and military responsibilities. Others would want to use us as weapons, Admiral Soman added. They would try to manipulate us into fighting their battles for them. And some would try to destroy us before we become a threat to them, Nayeon said. The balance of power in the galaxy depends on the assumption that all species are roughly equal in capability. If they knew humans were specifically designed to be superior warriors, that balance would collapse. Hyunwoo understood now why the secret had been kept for so long. Humanity's position in the galaxy was based on the other species seeing them as harmless newcomers who happened to be useful in support roles. If the truth came out, everything would change. "What do we do about the translator?" he asked. "We need to know exactly what she's discovered," Admiral Soman said. "And we need to decide whether we can trust her with the truth or whether we need to transfer her to a position where she can't cause problems." "There's something else," Nyan said, as she pulled up another file. "The architect installations have been showing increased activity in the past few months, almost as if they're responding to something." "Responding to what?" "We don't know yet, but the timing is suspicious. Right when someone discovers the truth about Earth's name, the ancient systems start waking up." 3 days after the emergency meeting, Ambassador Tae-hyung received a formal request from the Valdorian representative to discuss irregularities in human historical documentation. The request was politely worded, but Tae-hyung knew it meant trouble. The Valdorians were master bureaucrats who noticed every tiny detail in official records. He walked to the diplomatic wing where Representative Kelvash waited in Conference Room 12. The Valdorian was tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes that missed nothing. Kelvash had been questioning human activities for months and seemed suspicious of humanity's growing influence in council affairs. "Thank you for meeting with me on short notice," Kelvash said as Tae-hyung sat down. "I wanted to discuss some concerns about documentation inconsistencies we've discovered." "What kind of inconsistencies?" Kelvash placed a data tablet on the table between them. "Our archival review team has been comparing original submission documents with current database entries for all member species. Most species show perfect consistency between their original applications and their current files." Tae-hyung felt his stomach tighten, but kept his expression neutral. "That sounds like thorough work. However, we found significant discrepancies in the human records. The original Earth designation documents contain linguistic elements that don't match the accepted translation in our current systems. Translation errors are common with ancient languages," Tae-hyung replied carefully. "Human linguistic history is quite complex." "Indeed it is," Kelvash said with a thin smile. "So complex that we decided to conduct our own independent analysis using Valdorian translation protocols." The Valdorian touched his tablet and showed Tae-hyung a detailed linguistic breakdown. Their analysis had reached the same conclusions that Jiwon had discovered. Earth's name did not mean what everyone thought it meant. According to our analysis, the human homeworld's name translates to something much more militaristic than previously understood. We find this concerning given humanity's rapid advancement in military positions within the Defense Force. Tae-hyung knew he had to be very careful with his response. "I can have our linguistic experts review these findings and provide clarification." "That won't be necessary," Kelvash said. "We've already shared our analysis with several other council members. The Zephyrian Empire has expressed particular interest in these findings." After the meeting, Tae-hyung immediately contacted Admiral Soman. The secret was spreading and they were losing control of the situation. By evening, 3 more species representatives had requested meetings to discuss human historical accuracy. Meanwhile, Jiwon was working late in the archives again. She had been officially reassigned to different projects, but she couldn't stop thinking about what she had discovered. During her lunch break, she had managed to access more restricted files using her supervisor's login credentials. What she found made her realize that the translation problem was much bigger than anyone had told her. The restricted databases contained references to something called architect installations scattered throughout human space. These facilities were apparently active and responding to human presence, but no one seemed to know what they were for. She also found personnel files that showed unusual patterns in human military service. Human soldiers were not just performing better than expected. They were performing better than should be possible for their species' documented capabilities. The statistical analysis suggested that humans possessed advantages that were not reflected in their official biological assessments. Hyunwoo found her working at her desk well after normal hours. You need to stop this research, he said quietly. You're attracting attention from people you don't want to attract. I just want to understand what's happening, Jiwon replied. Why are there so many secrets about human history? Why won't anyone explain what these architect sites are? Because some knowledge is dangerous. If the wrong people find out about this, it could start a war. What are you talking about? We're all members of the same council. We're supposed to be allies. Hyunwoo sat down next to her desk and spoke in a low voice. The galaxy is more fragile than you think. The peace we have now depends on balance. Every species has to believe that every other species is roughly equal in capability. If that balance is disturbed, everything falls apart. But what if humans aren't equal? What if we're different somehow? Then we become either slaves or targets. There's no middle ground. The next morning brought worse news. The Zephyrian Empire had filed a formal complaint with the Council Security Committee, alleging that humans had provided false information in their original membership application. They demanded a full investigation into human capabilities and intentions. Admiral Soman called another emergency meeting. This time they met in a secure facility outside the main council building. The 4 senior humans were joined by 3 other military officers who had been cleared for classified information. The situation is deteriorating rapidly, Admiral Soman began. The Zephyrians are pushing for a formal review of humanity's council membership. If that happens, everything will come out. What are our options? Ambassador Taehyung asked. We can try to contain the information by discrediting the linguistic analysis, Nayeon suggested. Claim that the translation software is flawed or that the original documents were corrupted. That might work for a few weeks, Admiral Salmon replied, but eventually someone will do a more thorough investigation. The truth is too obvious to hide indefinitely. One of the military officers spoke up. What about a preemptive disclosure? We could control the narrative by revealing the information ourselves. Absolutely not, Ambassador Taehyung said immediately. We have no idea how the other species would react. Some of them might demand our immediate expulsion from council space. Nayeon pulled up a new set of reports on her tablet. There's another factor we need to consider. The architect installations are becoming more active every day. Long-range sensors are detecting power buildups at sites throughout human space. What does that mean? We think the installations are responding to the increased scrutiny of human activities, almost as if they're designed to activate when humans come under threat. Admiral Soman studied the sensor data. How many installations are we talking about? We've identified over 200 active sites so far. They're hidden in asteroid fields, on uninhabited moons, and in deep space. Most of them have been dormant for thousands of years, but they're all coming online now. What kind of capabilities do they have? Unknown. Our teams have never been able to fully access the systems. The installations only respond to direct human presence, and even then they provide limited information. Hyunwoo spoke up. There's something else. I've been monitoring communications between the other species representatives. The Chromalians are conducting their own investigation into human military performance. They've been analyzing battle records and tactical assessments. What have they found? They're starting to realize that human military doctrine is fundamentally different from anything else in the galaxy. They think we approach warfare like it's a survival necessity rather than a political tool. Ambassador Taehyung rubbed his forehead. How long do we have before this becomes a full crisis? Days, maybe weeks, Admiral Soman replied. The Zephyrians are building a coalition of species that want answers about human capabilities. Once they have enough support, they'll demand a formal council investigation. And when that happens, we'll have to choose between revealing the truth about Earth and fighting to protect our secrets. Either choice could destroy the peace that the galaxy has enjoyed for 2 centuries. Nayeon looked up from her tablet with a grave expression. There's something else. Long-range sensors have detected unusual activity at the edge of the galaxy. Something large is moving in our direction from intergalactic space. How large? Very large. And it's not responding to any communication attempts. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The timing was too coincidental to ignore. Just as humanity's secrets were being exposed, something unknown was approaching from the depths of space. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 200-year history. Representatives from 47 species filled the Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime, while security forces maintained order in the galleries where thousands of observers watched the proceedings. Ambassador Taehyung sat in the human delegation section, knowing that the next few hours would determine humanity's fate in the galaxy. The Zephyrian representative stood at the central podium and addressed the assembly. Honored colleagues, we have discovered evidence that one of our member species has been systematically deceiving this council about their true nature and capabilities. A murmur went through the hall as delegates turned to look at the human section. The Zephyrian continued with his presentation, displaying linguistic analysis and military performance data that painted humans as something far more dangerous than anyone had realized. The evidence shows that the species we know as humans are not peaceful farmers and traders as they have claimed. Their homeworld's true name translates to concepts related to warfare and conflict. Their military personnel consistently outperform all statistical expectations. Their strategic thinking follows patterns that suggest they view conflict as a natural state, rather than an aberration to be avoided. Representative Kelvash of the Valdorians took the podium next. Our independent investigation has confirmed these findings. Furthermore, we have discovered that humans maintain detailed tactical analysis of every council species. They have prepared contingency plans for potential conflicts with each of our civilizations. Admiral Soman felt her jaw tighten as she listened. From the observation gallery, the Valdorians had apparently gained access to classified Defense Force planning documents. The revelation that humans routinely analyzed other species as potential threats would terrify many council members who had assumed that such planning was unnecessary in their peaceful galaxy. The Chromalian representative spoke third. Our strategic analysis indicates that human military doctrine is fundamentally incompatible with Council peacekeeping principles. They approach every scenario with assumptions of total conflict and zero-sum outcomes. This suggests a species that has been shaped by evolutionary pressures completely different from those experienced by other Council members. As the presentations continued, the assembly began to divide into clear factions. The isolationists, led by the Zephyrians, argued that humans were too dangerous to remain in the Council and should be quarantined in their own space. The eliminationists, a smaller group including several aggressive species, suggested that humanity represented an existential threat that required immediate action, but a third faction was also forming. The Chromalians, despite their concerns about human military thinking, argued that humanity's capabilities made them valuable allies. Several smaller species that had benefited from human assistance in trade and development joined this integrationist faction. The Chromalian strategic advisor addressed the assembly. While we share the concerns about human deception, we must consider the practical implications of their capabilities. Our analysis suggests that humans possess strategic and tactical abilities that exceed any other known species. In an uncertain galaxy, such capabilities could be essential for collective defense. Representative Talgon of the Marathi Confederation stood up. The humans have never shown aggression toward council members. Their military service has been exemplary. They have saved lives and protected civilian populations in dozens of peacekeeping operations. Should we punish them for being effective? The debate continued for hours with representatives arguing passionately on all sides. Meanwhile, in a secure facility beneath the council building, Nyan was analyzing data from the architect installations, with increasing alarm. The power buildups are accelerating, she reported to Admiral Salmon over a secure communication link. Every installation in human space is now fully active. They're broadcasting some kind of signal, but we can't decode it. Any response from the approaching object? That's the disturbing part. The unknown contact changed course 6 hours ago. It's now heading directly for the core worlds, instead of following its previous trajectory. Admiral Soman felt a chill run down her spine. The timing was too perfect. Something had been waiting for humanity's secrets to be exposed. Back in the assembly hall, Ambassador Taehyung finally took the podium to respond to the accusations. He had prepared for this moment, but knew that his words could either save humanity's place in the galaxy, or condemn his species to isolation, or worse. Honored delegates, I will not insult your intelligence by denying the evidence you have presented. Humans are indeed different from other council species. Our evolution followed a unique path that shaped us in ways we ourselves did not fully understand until recently. He paused and looked around the assembly hall. But I ask you to consider why we concealed this information. We knew that our differences might frighten other species. We wanted to prove our peaceful intentions through our actions, rather than our words. The Zephyrian representative interrupted. Your actions include preparing for war against every species in this chamber. Our actions include serving with distinction in the defense force, Taehyung replied firmly. Protecting trade routes, rescuing civilians from natural disasters, and maintaining peace in contested systems. Human military planning includes contingencies for many scenarios because that is how we ensure we can protect those who cannot protect themselves. A new voice spoke from the assembly floor. It was Captain Yerim, the highest-ranking non-human officer in the defense force. I have served alongside human personnel for 15 years. I have seen them risk their lives to save members of species that are now calling for their expulsion. Whatever their evolutionary background, humans have proven their commitment to council values through their sacrifice. The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from the council's deep space monitoring station. The unknown object approaching from intergalactic space had been identified as artificial. It was a massive fleet of ships using technology that was millions of years ahead of anything in the Council's database. Admiral Soman received emergency authorization to address the assembly. She walked to the podium knowing that everything was about to change. Honored delegates, we are facing an unprecedented threat. Our long-range sensors have detected a massive alien fleet approaching Council space. These ships are using technology far beyond our current capabilities. They have not responded to any communication attempts, and their approach vector suggests hostile intent. The assembly hall erupted in chaos as representatives demanded more information. Admiral Soman continued speaking over the noise. The fleet will reach the outer colonies in approximately 10 days. Our combined defense forces are not equipped to handle a threat of this magnitude using conventional tactics and technology. What are you suggesting? The Zephyrian representative demanded. I'm suggesting that we need every advantage we can get. The architect installations in human space have been activating in response to this threat. They appear to contain advanced defensive technologies that could be crucial to our survival. Nayeon joined Admiral Soman at the podium. Our preliminary analysis suggests that the installations will only interface with human personnel. The technology appears to be designed specifically for human neural patterns and strategic thinking. The implications were clear to everyone in the assembly. The galaxy's best hope for survival against the approaching threat lay with the species. They had been debating whether to expel or destroy. The Chromalian representative stood up. Are you saying that humans were specifically created to fight this kind of threat? We believe so, Nayeon replied. The evidence suggests that whoever built the architect installations knew this threat was coming, and designed Earth to produce a species capable of defending against it. A long silence fell over the assembly as delegates absorbed this information. Finally, the elderly Marathi representative spoke. It seems the galaxy has a choice. We can continue this debate about human nature while an unknown enemy approaches our worlds, or we can accept that sometimes survival requires uncomfortable alliances. The Zephyrian representative was not convinced. Even if humans can help us defend against this threat, what happens afterward? Do we simply accept that one species is fundamentally superior to all others? We worry about afterwards when there is an afterwards, Admiral Soman said grimly. Right now we need to focus on making sure there's still a galaxy to argue about. The emergency vote was called within the hour. The assembly would decide whether to maintain humans as full council members with expanded military authority, or proceed with expulsion despite the approaching threat. As the votes were counted, everyone knew that the decision would reshape the galaxy forever. The vote was closer than anyone expected. 24 species voted to maintain human council membership with expanded military authority. 21 voted for immediate expulsion. 2 species abstained. The narrow margin reflected the deep divisions that had emerged during the crisis, but it was enough to keep humanity in the Council. Admiral Soman wasted no time implementing the emergency defense protocols. Within hours of the vote, human military personnel were being deployed to HFY installations throughout Council space. The ancient facilities responded immediately to human presence, powering up systems that had been dormant for millions of years. Hyunwoo found himself leading the first team to access the primary installation hidden in the asteroid belt around Earth's moon. As soon as he stepped into the facility, holographic displays activated showing star maps and tactical information that made his head spin. The technology was so advanced that it seemed to respond to his thoughts rather than his commands. The enemy is called the Devourers, he reported to Admiral Soman over the quantum communication link. According to these files, they consume entire galaxies for resources. They've been moving through this region of space for millions of years. How many ships are we facing? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. Each ship is larger than our biggest. Space stations. They use some kind of matter conversion technology that can break down planets and stars. The tactical displays showed the approaching fleet in terrifying detail. The lead ships were already entering the outer systems of the galaxy, systematically destroying everything in their path. Colonies that had existed for centuries were being reduced to raw energy to fuel the alien war machine. Admiral Soman studied the information from her command center on Nexus Prime. What kind of weapons do the installations provide? Everything, Hyunwoo replied with awe in his voice. Gravity manipulation devices, antimatter projectiles, space-time distortion fields. Some of these technologies don't even have names in our language. Can our ships integrate with these systems? That's the problem. The weapons are designed to interface directly with human neural patterns. Other species can't operate them effectively. We're going to need human crews for every major defensive platform. This revelation created new problems for the already strained Council. Many species that had reluctantly voted to keep humans as members were now uncomfortable with the idea of giving them exclusive access to the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. The Zephyrian representative filed an emergency protest. We cannot allow one species to monopolize defensive capabilities. This creates exactly the kind of power imbalance we were trying to prevent. But events were moving too quickly for political debate. The Devourer fleet had reached the middle colonies and was systematically destroying everything in its path. Refugee ships were flooding the inner systems carrying stories of planets being torn apart by machines that defied comprehension. Neon made a breakthrough discovery while analyzing the architect databases. The Devourers aren't just random destroyers. They're part of a galactic ecosystem. They consume young civilizations to fuel their expansion into other dimensions. You mean this is natural? Natural but controllable. The architects created Guardian, species like humans to maintain balance. When Guardian species are strong enough, the Devourers move on to find easier targets in other galaxies. So this is a test? More like a filter. Civilizations that can't defend themselves get consumed. Civilizations that can defend themselves get to survive and continue evolving. Admiral Soman realized the implications immediately. How many other Guardian species are there? According to these records, dozens. The architects seeded Crucible, worlds throughout the universe. Earth was just one of many projects. But we're the first Guardian species to mature in this galaxy. The first battle came sooner than expected. A Devourer scouting force of 12 massive ships entered the Proxima system where over 50 million civilians lived on 3 different worlds. The defense force scrambled every available ship, but their conventional weapons barely scratched the enemy hulls. Hyunwoo led the first human squadron equipped with architect technology into battle. The moment his ship's weapons connected with the Devourer vessels, the difference was obvious. The ancient weapons cut through enemy shields and armor like they were made of paper. All human squadrons, this is Admiral Soman. Weapons are effective. Repeat, architect weapons are effective against Devourer technology. Press the attack. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. The Devourer scouting force was completely destroyed with minimal council losses, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The main enemy fleet was still approaching, and it was 1,000 times larger than the scouting force. Back on Nexus Prime, the political situation continued to evolve. The successful defense of Proxima had proven that humans were indeed the key to defeating the Devourers, but it had also demonstrated that humanity now possessed military capabilities far beyond any other species. Ambassador Tai Hyung addressed the Emergency Council session. I understand your concerns about the power imbalance this creates, but we need to focus on survival first. After we defeat the Devourers, we can work together to establish new frameworks for galactic governance. The Kremalian representative had a different perspective. Perhaps this crisis is an opportunity to evolve beyond our current limitations. The humans have proven that cooperation between species can create capabilities that none of us possess individually. What are you suggesting? Asked the Marathi delegate. I'm suggesting that we stop thinking of this as humans versus everyone else. The architect technology responds to human operators, but it still requires support from other species. Our manufacturing capabilities, their strategic systems, Valdorian computational power, Zephyrian defensive expertise. Together, we're stronger than any individual species. This perspective began to gain support as more battles were fought against Devourer advance forces. Human tactical brilliance combined with Kremalian strategic planning and Valdorian logistical coordination proved devastatingly effective. Even the Zephyrians contributed by developing new defensive formations that maximized the effectiveness of architect weapons. Jiwan found herself at the center of a new project to establish communication protocols between human operators and alien support crews. Her linguistics background made her essential for creating the interface systems that allowed mixed species crews to operate together effectively. The translation problem that started all this is actually the key to solving it, she explained to Admiral Somin. Human language patterns are uniquely suited for real-time tactical communication, but other species have communication advantages in different areas, such as Kremalians can share complex strategic concepts instantly through their telepathic links. Valdorians can transmit mathematical calculations at impossible speeds. Zephyrians have emotional harmonics that keep crews calm under stress. The final battle came when the main Devourer fleet reached the core worlds. Over 10,000 enemy ships emerged from hyperspace in a formation that stretched across multiple star systems. The combined Council fleet looked pathetically small, in comparison, but the Council forces had advantages that the Devourers had not encountered before. Human crews operating architect weapons provided the firepower. Kremalian strategic networks coordinated attacks across impossible distances. Valdorian computational systems predicted enemy movements with perfect accuracy. Zephyrian defensive specialists kept damaged ships in the fight long after they should have been destroyed. Admiral Somin commanded the battle from the new flagship constructed around an architect command core. All human squadrons, you are authorized to use maximum force. Show them what Earth's children can do. The battle raged for 3 days across 7 star systems. When it was over, the Devourer fleet had been completely destroyed. For the first time in millions of years, the galactic predators had encountered prey that fought back effectively. In the aftermath, the galaxy was forever changed. Humanity's role as guardians was officially recognized, but they were no longer seen as separate from the other Council species. The crisis had forged new bonds between civilizations that had previously seen each other as competitors. Ambassador Tai Hyung stood before the rebuilt Council Assembly 6 months after the final battle. Earth's name has always been a source of controversy, but perhaps it's time we understood what it really means. Earth was the proving ground not just for humans but for this entire galaxy. The challenges we faced there taught us how to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And what happens now? Asked the Zephyrian representative who had become an unlikely ally during the war. Now we prepare for whatever comes next, Admiral Somin replied from her position as the new Council Defense Coordinator. The universe is vast and full of dangers we haven't imagined yet, but we've proven that when different species work together, we can face any threat. Nayan presented her final report on the architect installations. We've established contact with guardian species in 12 other galaxies. Earth was just the beginning. The architects created a network of protectors that spans the entire universe. Are there more threats like the Devourers? Many more. But there are also many more Guardians. And now we know we're not alone.